Welcome to the final stage of our curriculum, Module F12, the FEMA Advisor Playbook. You will not find any new regulations or unexamined legal statutes in this module. Instead, the objective here is translation. We take the isolated rules you mastered in modules F1 through F11 and assemble them into a repeatable operational workflow. This module map outlines the process across 4 sequential nodes, moving systematically from F12.1 through F12.4. Mastering this sequence marks the point where you stop merely studying FEMA regulations and start actively executing them. When faced with a complex client mandate, reciting isolated provisions from memory is insufficient. Every engagement requires a rigorous, systematic method to ensure compliance. Your responsibility lies in accurately classifying the transaction, engaging the authorized dealer bank properly, and structuring the entire compliance framework. Crucially, every piece of this structure must be validated and locked in before a single dollar or rupee crosses the border. By deploying this method, you insulate the client from severe regulatory exposure and act as a reliable strategic shield. We begin with micromodule F12.1, where the first mandatory step is definitively verifying the identity of the person involved, specifically whether they are a person resident in India or a person resident outside India. This 5-question framework chart shows how to classify the transaction based purely on its economic substance, identifying it as FDI, ODI, OPI, ECB, or an LRS remittance. Once the transaction is classified, micromodule F12.2 shifts our focus to building the legal foundation. This structural pyramid illustrates how a legally sound practice rejects unverified assumptions in favor of a rigidly constructed, verifiable foundation. A robust opinion traces exactly to statutory sections, specific rules, and RBI master directions, built sequentially upward through this 4-tier hierarchy. Combining precise economic classification with a strict source stack strips away ambiguity, yielding a legally unassailable opinion. Routine compliance audits and active transaction diligence inevitably reveal gaps, bringing us to micromodule F12.3. Before prescribing any remedy to a client, you must diagnose the exact nature of the failure. This decision matrix outlines the critical first step, routing the compliance gap to determine if it is a simple reporting delay or a substantive contravention. If you identify a quantifiable substantive contravention, the diagnostic pathway leads towards compounding under Section 15 of FEMA. Utilizing this matrix ensures you prescribe the correct regulatory cure, preventing escalated enforcement and structural damage to the client's business. Finally, micromodule F12.4 addresses the operational imperative of the filing timeline. Professional discipline requires you to map out every single reporting obligation before any capital changes hands. This horizontal timeline maps primary equity and foreign investments, charting deadlines for forms like FCGPR, FCTRS, FLA, and Form DI. The same applies to debt and outward investments, tracking Form ECB1, ECB2, Form FC, the Annual Performance Report, and Form OPI. Building this integrated calendar translates abstract regulatory deadlines into a concrete, actionable roadmap for the client and their authorized dealer bank. By the end of this module, you are expected to master 3 distinct operational goals. First, you will classify transactions using the 5-question framework. Second, you will build a reliable 4-tier legal source stack. Third, you will triage contraventions and map the reporting calendar. Let's begin. The final objectives represents your final transition from a student of the regulations to an active, reliable practitioner. It is time to step into the playbook and finalize your methodology. Let's begin the final operational module.